Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, all things Cinco EDC. I'm Cinco. In today's video, this is going to be a little bit of a different video. This is going to be more of a creative video, as you can see before you. As I said in previous videos, I like to do a lot of the stuff on my firearms myself. I have before me two 20 round PMag magazines that I spray painted. These are solid colored magazines that I just tried different ones. I mean, I'm not a soldier, I'm not going hunting in the woods, nothing like that. So I try different patterns just to see what comes out. I'm not trying to hide in the woods from anybody, so the colors aren't really a big deal. I'm not going for huge camouflage patterns, but I have also tried to do more fun things like this 60 round magazine that I have before you here now. I tried this tiger stripe pattern, which actually came out really good. It's about 4 or 5 different colors on there, which actually came out pretty decent. It was the first time I had ever done it, and it came out really good, so I tried it on a few more. So in today's video, I just want to go through it and teach you guys how I went about doing this. You can also do this on firearms. It works really good on these because it's the plastic, they're small. You can experiment on them. If you damage them, do anything at all, they're $7, $8, $9 at the most these days. Obviously not this one. This is a 60 rounder. This was closer to $40 or something like that when I bought it. I don't remember at the moment. But magazines like this, very easy to come by, very cheap. Experiment with them, don't be afraid. I waited a long time to do stuff like this, and in the end I'm like, okay, this is pretty easy. This is not so hard. And like I said, I'm an average Joe like anybody else. I've never been a painter. I've never done anything in the past that had to do with stuff like that. I just like being hands-on. I like to learn. I like to go out there and do it myself. I know people pay for a lot of things like this. They pay for stuff like getting their firearms painted, Cerakoted. They pay for stippling. All that stuff I like to learn how to do on my own. I've stippled some of my own firearms, which we'll talk about in future videos. Maybe I'll drop in a couple photos just as examples. So things like that I like to do on the videos. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. We'll go to the outside. So here we are outside now. I brought out here this 40. So I was going to do the rest of the video outside, but after a brief meeting with me and my production team, we decided to contact the research and development team and figured it's too damn hot outside to do the rest of it. So until we actually go to spray paint, we're going to do the rest of the steps in here. So before I start spray painting anything, the step I like to do is take some acetone, some nail polish remover, rub it on a paper towel, and just kind of clean it down anytime you're doing anything firearms related. Usually things tend to have grease, oil, any dirt, anything like that. So let's go ahead and get some of that off, rub it. Acetone and alcohol, they're good because they tend to dry themselves out. Then at the end, just any kind of little fleece, any kind of little dust, just go ahead and kick it off. Give it a second to dry off on its own. So now that we've let the nail polish remover dry, the next thing I want to do is take a roll of tape. I usually like to use paper tape, any kind of blue painter's tape. I use this one here. It's all pretty much the same. You want stuff that, for the purpose of painting, you want something that's also flexible so it can get around the curves and crevices in here, and you'll see why in a minute. So the first thing I do is cover up the top of this magazine. I never want to paint the top of my magazine because I don't want paint getting into the mag well of the rifle when inserting and taking it out. So you're not going to see this part anyways when you have the magazine in the rifle. But I try to stick it in here evenly so that it looks even on both sides. So after I do that quickly, it doesn't take very long. It's usually pretty easy. You don't have to get super picky about your lines. So I got that. That way it looks good. It looks even on both sides. Okay. First and foremost, or most importantly, you want to take care of that. You don't want any paint getting in here. I'm not even going to unload the magazine because it's going to be completely encased. Easy for you guys to enjoy while I do this. I just double up on it some to make sure that there's no little cracks for it to get in there. Can't afford to ruin any ammo, especially with this fantastic biodynamics economy we got going on. Okay, so that's pretty good. Now for the tiger stripe pattern, which is the one I'm going to do on here, there's other patterns that we can do in other videos if you want to see specific patterns, or if there's even any pattern you want me to learn and experiment on my own mags in order to come up with a good process. Because I never get it right the first time, but I like to do ways that get better and better each time. Because I like a good looking magazine. The most important part of having firearms is looking cool, and we all know that. Of course, I'm just kidding, guys. The most important part of having firearms is first and foremost being safe, knowing the 4 universal laws of safety with firearms. And second of all, training. The equipment doesn't matter how much it costs or how good it is if you don't know what the heck you're doing with it. So the reason I like the tiger stripe pattern is because there's no right or wrong way to do it. You can simply take a piece of tape like this. You don't want any edges, you want it to look rough, so the first thing I do is take the edges off, make it look nice and rough edge. If you see the edge there, you don't want straight lines. So then you go ahead and take this off. You want all angles. There's no right or wrong way to do it. You want to try and make it look as much of a stripe as possible. So I get a bunch of little random pieces, stuff that is usable. You can do it to your own design. That's a good thing about this. Nobody can tell you you're wrong. Then you just take a random piece, lay it on there. Now I always like to have something that I can rub down the tape with, just so that it adheres good. And I always like to go in a diagonal pattern like this because stripes look better like this than they do horizontally. So I'll take all these pre-ripped tape pieces. You can lay them here. You can take big pieces, small pieces. You get to do whatever you want. You just want to push down and make sure they stick on there nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and do this to the rest of the mag, and so that you guys aren't sitting here forever on a long video. There's a few things I wanted to share with you guys as I was doing this. Bear with me for a second. Just wanted to share with you guys some of the high-tech tools that I use while I'm doing this. I'm going to take off this smaller piece, put on some bigger pieces. One of the very high-tech tools that I use, that I'm currently using. Normally I use a card. But one of the high-tech tools that I'm currently using is this here, also known as a Bic ballpoint pen. So I just use anything with a plastic edge on it to kind of just push against the curves here. Okay. And as you can see, all the pieces I've taken the edges off the tape. It's always important to take off the edge, whether it be ripping the tape or drinking a beer. It's always important to take the edge off. Of course, I'm just being funny, guys. Never mix alcohol with anything firearm related. I know that sounds cliche, but it's super important. I'm sure you can wait. Anyways, I'm going to continue doing this. I'll keep you guys posted as I get closer. But you definitely want to push everything in as tight as you can, just because it makes for cleaner paint, makes for cleaner lines, better details. So this is what it looks like after it's all said and done with painting. Nothing crazy. I got stripes all across the bottom. Try to get them all to go in similar angles. I think it looks better that way, but you can do from medium-sized pieces to little fat chunky pieces to a really long piece around. Again, this is just going to be the initial layer, because once it's all said and done, we'll add some more colors into it. So let's go outside, put on the first coat. So here we are outside now. The next process I would do is, I just laid this on a couple Amazon boxes here just to not get paint all over the place, obviously. So another trick I learned after screwing up a few magazines is I would take these little furniture pads, the ones that they use for chairs and stuff like that so they don't scratch up the floor. And I would just cut a few pieces, and I'll tell you why in a second. So I would cut these in a way that the magazine would evenly balance. I'll put some here, I'll put some on the tape where it's not going to affect the paint. And I'll put one more or less somewhere like here. And I'll tell you why. After a certain while, I used to have to wait till this one side dried off in order to flip it over and do an even coat on the other side. So now this time, I can flip this over and it would evenly sit. So I went ahead and flipped it over, and I just took a photo for you guys. I'll roll it into the footage later on. So once I flip this over, it'll sit evenly while that side's drying, and it won't affect it, while both sides dry evenly, and we don't have to sit there and wait 20 minutes to flip each side. So we're gonna go ahead and lay on the first coat here. I decided that since the other one was all green patterns and gray and FDE, we're gonna go ahead and do this one in navy, gray, and royal blue, which I think will look cool in the end. So let's go ahead and get this one started. You always want to spray like that. You want to spray over the piece. You never want to stop right on it. You want to go real quick over all the way out and about. You want to do an even coat, but also keep it light so you don't get drippings all over the place. So in other scenarios, I would have to sit there and wait for this side to dry up, but now I don't. I can grab it by the tape. It's not going to be affected anyways. And I can flip this thing over. And I can paint this side and let them both dry off at the same time, while the bottom side is not being touched. So let's go ahead and do this side. Just remember, the first color you put on is not going to be the overall color. It's going to be the one that pops through. I'll show you that later on, so let's go ahead and let that dry. I won't take up too much of your time, and we'll come. I'm actually going to add on another layer of a different color blue, so that way the two colors of blue are the ones that are actually popping through from the bottom. And I meant to show you guys the blues that I'm using. This is actually Rust-Oleum navy blue. I try to get them all in matte. And the second color blue I'm using is Matte Ink Blue by Krylon. Honestly, I've gotten good results from both of them. I just tried to get whatever was navy at the time, whatever was royal blue at the time. I also have other colors of Rust-Oleum. On some things I use this camouflage edition that Rust-Oleum has. I wasn't actually a huge fan of these, but they work too for their purposes. So all different colors. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm not going to paint completely over this because I want the camouflage kind of style to it. So as I said before, you want to paint through it like that, and then I'm going to hit it with some stripes. Nothing specific. Nobody can tell you you did it wrong because you do whatever the heck you want. I'm going to go ahead and hit this side now. You can do that, any kind of little random pattern. And I'm going to flip it back over so that it ends up back on those little furniture pads. And one more stripe. And we're going to let those two colors dry. And then we'll come back. So this is what it looks like after it dries. Be mindful that some colors do tend to, this has been about 20 minutes, but notice how some colors do tend to fade as they dry, which honestly makes good for camouflage patterns because you don't want solid lines when you're doing stuff like this. So I'm going to take this inside, I'm going to remove all the tape that's here, reapply a new set of tape, and then spray over it again, and you'll see how that creates a cool pattern. Be right back. So here we are back inside. I'll give you a closer look of how that looks after about 20 minutes of drying. Now it's dry to the touch, but it's not 100% dry. Normally you want to give it 24 to 48 hours before it's its final stage. So really all I'm going to do now is take my high precision expensive tool that I bought specifically for this. It was a big investment. Now I'm just gonna start peeling at the edges of this tape. And you wanna try to just get any little edge and then peel it off by hand so that you don't mess with the actual paint. So let's see here, any little edge there. Let me bring you guys in closer. Let me see if I can bring you in. Bam. Okay, so you just want to pick at any little edge, like these edges here, and then peel it off. So the cool part is, like I said, there's no right or wrong way to do this. You get to make it completely unique. All my magazines are unique, considering I've never ripped a piece of tape identically twice. Okay. So you want to just pick at the edges. Now the reason I stressed about pushing down, if you can see how clean those lines look, that's why I like to push down on the tape. If you ever leave a gap, let me see if I can find one, kind of like that there. I don't know if you can see that. Any little gap you might leave, paint tends to get under it and it just looks like a little blurry mess. So you want to push it down so you can get some clean lines when you paint. So I'm gonna get all this paint off of here. I mean all this tape, and then I'll come back to you guys in a couple of minutes. Like I said, don't be afraid to experiment. You can use the colors you want. Nobody knows what it's supposed to look like. There's no intended look. You kind of just do it, and at the end you sit back and look at it, because it's like a fingerprint. They're always going to come out unique. They're always going to be different. So we'll be back in a couple minutes and I'll show you what this looks like. Be right back. So this is what it looks like once all the tape is off, which in reality you could leave it like this if you wanted to. It looks pretty cool like that as it is. Even the bottom, we want to try and get equal patterning all the way across. I'm leaving this tape on because we're going to repaint it, and I'll show you why. But as you can see, the two different color blues, they spread out pretty evenly and they kind of camouflaged into themselves, so that's cool. That's kind of the effect you want. So I'm going to let this dry a little longer so that the next layer of tape doesn't affect this layer of paint, and then I'll come back to you guys when we start retaping the other side. Alright, so we're back. I let this thing dry for another 20-25 minutes, so hopefully this next layer of tape doesn't affect the first layer of paint that we put on there. So I'm going to start doing the same pattern. I'm just going to take more rough edge tape. You never want to have that edge. You always want to break that edge off, as we said before, and then just dispose of the straight lines. But this time I'm going to try and do my angles kind of contradicting what I did before. So you kind of just want to have them interfere with each other, something like that. Remember, you got the two blues and the black also plays a part. So you kind of just want to disrupt what you did earlier. Just kind of want to break a bunch of tiger stripes. So instead of doing a perfect angle like that, I kind of just change the angle a little bit. This time I don't push so hard down on, I just use my hands. I don't use my high precision tool here because I don't want to completely stick it to that first layer of paint. But we'll take this. You can use long pieces, little pieces, short, fat, we don't discriminate. And we're going to take that, make this a little bit of an angle. Like I said before, there's no right or wrong, so just do however you like. Do one there, do one there. Let's do it. Change the angle a little bit. So I'm just going to continue doing this. I'll come back to you guys in a minute. You always want to have some kind of like sharp edge to it. I'll come back to you guys in a minute and we'll see what it looks like once it's all taped up. Be right back. So here we are back again. I retaped it over that first paint job we did. I left these two up here. I went ahead and reattached this one on the bottom. It's the same exact piece I had before. It doesn't have to be on there super tight. You just gotta kind of let it sit there loosely. It's just so that you can flip this thing over and both sides can dry, as I explained before. I'll put in a still shot of what that looked like. I'm sure I already did. So we're gonna go back out there. We're gonna respray paint this thing. See how there was no rhyme or reason, just stripes all over the place. You can do as much as you want, as little as you want. It's all up to you. You pick the colors, you pick the pattern, and you pick how often you want to put the stripes. It's all up to you. Nobody can tell you what to do with it. So see you again outside. So here we are back outside. It's been retaped. I'm gonna go ahead and hit it with a dark gray all the way around. The one I'm using is matte dark pearl. Let's see how that looks. All right, here I am. I went off camera for a bit so I can shake the crap out of this spray paint can. Spray paint can. So here we go. Let's go ahead and do this one. I picked this because it's a dark gray. I don't really like very bright colors, so it's more of a dark gray. Remember, once that dries, it's going to be even darker. So let's go ahead and hit it. Nice even coat. You want to go past it. You don't want to go. If you do short strokes like this, you're going to get drips. So let's do it. Now here's another good part about this tape at the top. Doesn't really matter if I touch it, it's not going to stay on there anyways. So I can go ahead and flip it onto my little furniture pads that I put on there for that reason. Of course, if you don't want this to happen, put some gloves on. I don't really care. So let's go ahead and hit it again. Now it's better to go light on your first coat. You can always add on to it. It's better than having to put too much and then you can't take it off. So go ahead, examine it. If you see that everything looks good, do some touches from far away until it's just enough. And now we're gonna let it sit there until it dries, a good 25 minutes so that it's dry to the touch. And then we'll come back to it. Again, the furniture pads are under there, so it's getting air underneath as well. You don't want it to rub on this cardboard. It'll ruin it. So then I'll be back as soon as this is done. So here we are, guys. The finished product. After letting it dry for about an hour or so, I peeled off all the tape. And here you are, it's the finished product. I think it came out pretty nice. I'll sit that there, let you guys look at that. But like I said, guys, don't be afraid to try it. You can do all kinds of different patterns. I've done patterns like this, which is just gray and a Cryptek, believe it or not. This was a laundry mesh bag I used. So don't be afraid. It takes $3 to buy this little bag. Spray it on there. Maybe one day we can do a video like that if you guys are interested. You can do solid color mags. This actually goes with a rifle that has blue accents on it, and that's sticking with that. And then you could even do things such as the single layer Tiger Stripe. This actually goes to a plum / brown colored AK I have that maybe I'll do a review on one day. So there's that, guys. Don't be afraid to try it. These were the first couple magazines I did once that came out terribly. As you can see the finish on that. This one I actually had to repaint it because of how bad it came out. Now it's halfway decent. This was another one that I tried to do. It was halfway decent. Still looks terrible. So from that to this, all it takes is a little bit of effort. So that's it for today, guys. That's the final product. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. Is it good? What else would you do? What colors would you prefer? What would you have done differently? What did you like? Let me know down below. I would appreciate it. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, hit that little bell. I'm going to be coming out with a lot more videos soon. I'm going to try and rush out a lot of videos in the beginning. That way you have a lot of content. And let me know what you like more, what kind of content you like less. And I'll be sure to follow up. Without the audience, there is no channel, so you guys let me know. Aside from that, that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for sticking to the end. If you did stick to the end, love you guys. God bless you guys. Take care. See you in the next video. God bless.